Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, it's Rebecca Naylor, health coach with Chronically Well Club, celebrating 20 years living with multiple sclerosis in remission and loving the new life I've created for myself, helping other people with multiple sclerosis learn how to discover their power to heal and really recreate their lives. So for those of you who have been following my show, you know that I have been doing a lot of work developing something called the 8 Keys of Healing, and this is to answer the question, how did you do it? Because it's pretty rare for someone like myself who's lived with MS for 20 years, not only to be in remission, but actually whenever I have an MRI to see that my brain is healing itself. My lesions that I had 20 years ago, most of them have disappeared, and the ones that are still there are much smaller than they were before. So this is pretty exciting, and it's a good reminder that a lot of people think of MS as a progressive disease, and I think that is really a misnomer. It is, in fact, not fair to people who are newly diagnosed to plant that seed and tell them that they should expect their disease to progress. Because in my case, and the case of many others who've really taken control of their own healing, MS actually can regress. It can get better. It can heal. I am proof of that, and I'm here to teach you how. So, if you have been following, again, last week, I recorded a show where I talked about a pretty big decision that I made. So, I can now say completely, I am no longer a high school teacher. I was a teacher, past tense. Still like saying that. I was a teacher in the public school world, although I am still and always will be an educator. As of the first day of school this year, I had a very important realization after some ups and downs over the past year that I had to recognize being a teacher was not in the best interests of me and my healthcare. So I stepped away. I have left my job as a high school teacher, and I am now full-time devoting myself to Chronically Well Club, to the different things that I am doing to serve you, my community. It is a time of transition, to say the least. So a lot of things have been happening in the past 2 weeks. I haven't been doing my regular posts on my Facebook Live or my video blog because I've just been taking a little bit of time for myself. Because of course this is something that I advocate for all of my clients and the people who I coach to do. And that is of course to put your own needs first. So I've taken the past couple of weeks to really process this huge monumental change in my life, because my identity for the past, my entire life has been really closely linked to that of a teacher. I've always been a teacher. And in fact, I think back to when I first began kindergarten at the age of 5, I have been in public education every single year of my life since I was 5 years old. I went straight from elementary school to high school, to university, to teacher's college, to teaching. I've never taken time off. So this is really a new world for me, a new experience. And to sum up the change, I'm loving it. I am so so happy with my decision. It was a long time coming. Teaching in the public school system in Toronto, where I was teaching, and I'm pretty sure all around the world, is an incredibly stressful job. And stress, we know, is the most common, if not the only, trigger for MS and MS symptoms. That certainly is true of me, and most people who have MS agree that that is what causes their flare-ups, their symptoms to recur. So stepping away from that environment that was so toxic for me, that constant frustration of never being done the to-do list, of engaging in conflicts, not engaging in conflicts, but having to mediate conflicts, I should say, and just living by a bell, right? Always feeling like you're late and you're rushing and you're trying to fit in a specific amount of time that is not nearly enough time for what you need to do. It's a lifestyle that's not conducive to health. And for a person who has a chronic illness, it just doesn't work. It really doesn't. So the update is that I have now applied for long-term disability. So my application went in last week. And I was just told this morning that I should have a decision on my case within 2 weeks. So I'm pretty excited that I'm not going to have to wait too long for a decision. I'm still a little bit nervous, even though I know that I'm completely within my right to have made this application and it's totally legitimate and it's what I need and I paid into it for years and years. You know, there's always that nervousness when you don't have control, right? Loss of control and uncertainty are what causes stress and lack of information. Those three things: lack of information, loss of control, and uncertainty. Pretty much every stressful situation falls into one of those three categories, and waiting for this decision is a little bit of all three. So I'm trying to maintain my faith. I really do feel that I've made the absolute best decision for me. I'm very excited to create this next phase of my life, right? It's not about sitting back and waiting for what's coming. It's about deciding and taking action about what opportunities I can create for myself and what direction I can go to work within what I know works for me. I hesitate to say my limits because I believe that limits are self-created, but I do believe that we all have strengths. And so creating a career, a passion project, a venture moving forward that is going to work to my strengths is what I'm working on right now. And Chronically Well Club right now is really that passion project for me. So I remember that I read once that people who are most successful in life make decisions quickly and change them rarely. And that's basically what I do. When I decide something, it is a done deal. So within days of submitting that LTD application, I had already gone into my classroom and all through my garage. I had collected all of the 15 years worth of teaching resources from 9 different departments that I've worked in, books and binders and posters, you name it. And I went through every single thing and thought, is this something that I ever will want or need again? Is this something that uplifts my life? Is this something that I want to hang on to? And there was nothing, not a single book that I decided I wanted to keep. Not because I regret any of my time teaching, but because I know that I'm a different person now, moving towards a new phase of my life. And those books and resources can go forth to have new life in the hands of another teacher, working with other students, and just have a better future that way. So I've donated everything that I've collected for the past 15 years, and I feel amazing. I feel like I have just been liberated. I feel so relieved of really what had started to feel like a burden of all these things that had been weighing me down. So I'm super excited about that and feeling really awesome. So like I said earlier, I may not be teaching in the classroom anymore, but I always will be a teacher. I love to educate. I love to share knowledge. I love to inspire people individually and in groups. So I'm already starting to plan some things that I can do right now that are going to serve my community and therefore serve me. So I've got some things coming up already. Some of you know already that I'm a wellness advocate with doTERRA essential oils, which I absolutely love because they're so healing and help with so many of my MS symptoms. So I'm already planning on teaching a couple of workshops coming up next week. If you're in the Toronto area, just send me a message, Rebecca@chronicallywell.club, and I can tell you all about them. but I'm teaching some essential oils 101 classes, beginner classes. I'm also teaching another essential oil class about natural solutions for the home, because of course reducing our toxic load is something that's very important for people with MS. And on that note, I have some workshops coming up in October that I've planned already about environmental cleansing. And I don't mean the environment as in save the rainforest. I mean the environment that is your home. So that workshop is called Health Begins at Home, and it's all about how to remove toxins from your home and to minimize your exposure to toxins. So those are coming up in October, and I'm really excited about creating those things because, again, it's about recognizing my strengths, recognizing the environment in which I can teach, and serving my community. And I'm really excited about those things. So do I still have any stress? Yeah, I still have some stress right now. There are some things that are challenging, like finances. People often say that most of the arguments that happen in life are about parenting or about money. So money is, of course, a factor in all of this, though I'm really proud that it was not part of the final decision. Obviously, it was a big thing to do, right? To give up a job that has a very safe, secure, stable salary, same amount in your bank account every 2 weeks. And I've given that up for the at least temporary uncertainty of not knowing where my next paycheck is going to come from. So that's a bit of a stressor, but it is so worth it to know that my future is mine to create. It is an awesome, awesome, awesome feeling. So what have I been doing over the past couple weeks to manage that stress and to minimize the effects of that stress on my health? Well, again, it's the importance of friends, of family, and your environment and what fuels you and fills your heart. So definitely I went home and spent some time with family and really enjoyed getting out of the big city, Toronto, which can be quite overwhelming at times, and being in a calmer environment amongst loved ones. I've been spending time with friends and enjoying laughter and relaxation and just making sure that I'm putting myself in environments where I feel the most healthy. And as I've mentioned in many previous episodes, I am a huge lover of nature. I think there are very few people who do not feel relaxed and rejuvenated by spending time in nature. So while I've been at home, I've been spending time outdoors, and right now I'm recording this episode from up in North Bay, Ontario, where I was very graciously invited to spend a few days with a friend at her home, and I am just absolutely loving the fresh Northern Ontario air, and we're having lovely weather. And spent some time on the lake this morning and really just felt like my cup was being filled. So important for maintaining our health. So that's what's been going on with me for the past couple weeks. Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit about a recent experience I had just last weekend. So although a lot has been going on in my own life and I have been trying to prioritize taking care of myself, I also needed to switch into being the supporter and the caregiver for a few days this past weekend. So let me talk a little bit about what happened. So I'm going to respect this person's privacy and not refer to them by name, but we'll just say a friend. So I have a friend who I've known for quite a long time, and this friend has had a number of small things happen to them, which kind of make your eyebrows go up and make you go, that kind of sounds like things I experience with my MS. Nothing huge though, no big exacerbation, but a little foot drag here, a little tingling there, a little numbness there, but nothing to really warrant questioning if it was MS, except for the fact, that like me, this person has numerous family members with multiple sclerosis. So we have talked over the years about this person's, uncertainty and how they wonder if maybe they might have this as well. Obviously, since I have MS, I'm somebody that they come to talk to about this. And this person has had an MRI in the past. And when they had that MRI, it did not show any lesions. Now, many of you may know, or some of you may not know, an MRI can confirm that you do have MS, but it cannot confirm that you don't have MS. Because if you have an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, which is a scan of your brain that shows inflamed areas, also known as lesions, if that MRI shows lesions, it can confirm that you have multiple sclerosis. But it is known that you can have symptoms without lesions. And you can also have lesions on other parts of your nervous system, like your brainstem and your spinal cord. And so sometimes if they only MRI the brain itself, they may miss lesions on the spinal cord as well. So this person had an MRI years ago, and it was determined that they most likely did not have MS, though they couldn't rule it out. So since then, they have had a few different things here or there, but something happened on Saturday that made me go, no need to panic, but I'm taking you to the hospital. So what happened is this person told me that every time they moved their eye, it hurt. That their eyes suddenly hurt. Now they get migraines, and so if they had just said, I have a pain behind my eye, I wouldn't have been worried. But they said, my eyes hurt. And my brain went, that sounds like optic neuritis, which is an inflammation of the optic nerve and one of the most common symptoms, early symptoms of multiple sclerosis. Now, along with the eyes just hurting all the time, one of the classic signature features of optic neuritis is that when you move the eye up, down, or to the side, there's like a really strong pain. Like the pain really intensifies with eye movement. And my friend had this odd eye pain. And so I said, I think we should go to the hospital, not because it's actually an emergency, but because you need to have another MRI, because there's obviously some kind of inflammation going on. And if we just go through your family doctor, the waiting list could be ages, and then, we wouldn't see it on an MRI. At least if we go to Emerge, they can hopefully get you to see an ophthalmologist who is a specialist who's able to look at the optic nerve, and, we can go from there. So I did take her to the hospital. It wasn't too bad. We were in and out in 4 hours, and that's not too bad. I've been 13 hours in an ER before and just left because it took so long. But 4 hours, and what we were told is that the ophthalmologist, based on the fact that she didn't have any blurring of her vision, felt that it wasn't urgent and could wait until Monday. This was a Saturday. And so she had an appointment to see the ophthalmologist at 9:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. So we thought that was okay. Went home, waited Sunday. Monday morning, I took them to the specialist, the ophthalmologist, who, after another long wait, looked into her eye at her optic nerve and decided to say that she did not have optic neuritis because she did not have any visible inflammation on her optic nerve. Now, this was frustrating for me because it's important, because how can I explain this? My frustration with the current healthcare model is that when they don't have answers, they just send you home. The basic result of that specialist visit was, you don't fit the specific criteria we have for this thing that we call optic neuritis because it's written in a textbook and has very specific criteria. And in order to get the diagnosis, you have to have visible inflammation on your optic nerve. So even though you have the classic symptom, pain upon eye movement, which could only be 2 or 3 other things that we've ruled out, even though you have that classic symptom, I don't see anything on the optic nerve, therefore I can't justify, in his own words, allocating the resources of an MRI to you. So this is what it came down to. It came down to money. It came down to there's only so much money for magnetic resonance imaging, and without inflammation of the optic nerve, he couldn't justify spending money on this person. So that was kind of frustrating. So I went with this person because I knew what questions to ask. And interestingly, the doctor was quite surprised, not offended, but clearly surprised that I was questioning him. And I wasn't being aggressive in any way. I was simply letting him know that I was very knowledgeable in this area and asking him to justify some of his decisions. And I try to do it as respectfully as possible because I understand that he is bound by the limitations of his own profession, right? There is only so much money. He, being a medical doctor, is trained to diagnose and prescribe. He's not trained in prevention. So it didn't surprise me when at the end of the meeting with my friend and this doctor, he basically said, no diagnosis because you don't fit the textbook criteria. However, I have no other explanation for your pain. There's nothing I can do for you. How many times have we heard that, MS peeps? There's nothing we can do for you. Go home and come back if it happens again. Go home and come back if it happens again. This is crazy, right? So you're just expected to sit and wait with something that could be worsening without any guidance at all of how to make it better or prevent it worsening. It's almost like go home and hope for it to happen again, but a little bit worse with hopefully some inflammation that's visible in the optic nerve. Then we can move forward with the next step of getting you that valuable label, the diagnosis, right? So this experience really affirmed for me that functional medicine has to be the way of the future. It really is. Functional medicine means, working with functional medicine specialists, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, the people who are interested in the why, the people who are not interested in the diagnosis, who don't care what labels you've been given, the people who listen to you, listen to the symptoms that you're experiencing, and help you to figure out the root cause of those symptoms. This person didn't go to the hospital in order to get a diagnosis. This person went to the hospital to find out what was causing their symptoms and how they could make their symptoms go away. But of course, that wasn't what they discovered, right? What they discovered was that the current medical model, the doctors and the hospitals, the way they're set up right now, really had nothing to offer this person. So we had a long conversation after that. And again, it was about releasing the need for a diagnosis. I know, and some of you have commented on previous episodes, that when it comes to insurance and disability claims, the diagnosis is important. But when it comes to self-healing and taking care of yourself and making the lifestyle changes necessary to really heal and reclaim your life, the diagnosis is not important. Recognizing that there's something out of whack in your body, that there's some kind of imbalance, that your body is saying no, that your body is in a state of dis-ease. When you recognize that, you're able to start taking action. You don't need to wait for somebody to tell you that you have a diagnosis, right? So that was a challenging, frustrating thing. And I'm still supporting that person, but I've taken some time to now go away, as I mentioned, up to North Bay and take care of myself. Because what happened is over the 3 days that I was supporting this person, my health took a step back. I was experiencing some neuropathy, some pain, some difficulty walking, some brain fog, because I was devoting all my energy to caring for another person at the expense of myself. And I love this dear friend. And I'm very happy I could be there to support them. But in retrospect, I look back, and yes, at the beginning when we were going to emerge, it definitely should have been me. It was important for me to be there to support them. I was the best person to support them, and I had the reserves at that point. It was fine. When it came to the follow-ups and over the next few days, there were other people that could have supported, who offered to support, and it would have been up to me to step back, release control, and allow other people to play a part. Because at that point, I was starting to experience a little bit of step back myself, and it would have been better for me to recognize my own need for care. So I try and remember when it comes to self-care that when you want to give to support another person, it's great to give. Giving is amazing when you're in a position of surplus, when you have extra to give. However, if you're not in a place of surplus, if you're going through things on your own, if you're experiencing challenges of your own and you don't have a lot to give, if giving to another person is going to put you in a place of deficit, then there's probably someone better that can give that support, right? Nobody wants you to give knowing that you're going to be harming yourself. So that's important to remember as well. So over this past week or so, I've been building up my strength and endurance and and my emotional well-being as well through things like yoga and earthing, enjoying silence, being by the water. Watched some amazing honeybees collecting pollen this morning and saw a monarch butterfly and just took moments to appreciate. Participated in some affirmative prayer, some visualization, some awesome laughter medicine with a dear friend. All of these things are really helping me to heal and to bring myself back to a state of well-being. So, everything is looking like it's on the way up. I'm really excited to hear back over the next couple of weeks about how my future is going to unfold, but I am releasing attachment to the outcome of this LTD claim because I know that whatever happens is going to be perfect for me and that I am going to create an amazing life for myself regardless. If you've enjoyed listening to these stories and tips, you can find me on my main website, at chronicallywell.club. On that website, you can find links to my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you can also find links to information on the Vox Life neurologically enhancing socks and insoles that I highly recommend for everyone with MS because they're clinically proven to help with strength, balance, stability, range of motion, endurance, all of these things. They're phenomenal. You can also learn more about doTERRA essential oils, which I use all the time to manage my MS symptoms, and I teach classes about this for other people so they can learn about the healing properties as well. So you can find links to Vox and doTERRA on my website. There's also a place where you can sign up for a complimentary consultation if you're interested in exploring health coaching. I do work with individuals all over the world. I also do home health audits in the Greater Toronto area, and I'm available for speaking events and workshops as well. Currently working on a book. Really excited. Now that I'm not teaching, I'll have a little bit more time to focus on writing. My book will be Chronically Well Club, The 8 Keys of Healing. So very excited to keep working on that and to share everything I've learned over the past 20 years with you, my MS community. So if you have any questions or comments about what you've heard today or anything you'd like to hear me talk about in a future episode, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is Rebecca, Rebecca, at chronicallywell.club, and I sincerely would love to hear from you. I read and respond to every message that I receive, and I love to engage in a dialogue, to hear what you're doing in your own life, to respond to any questions you might have. It really does warm my heart to engage with my community. So I hope to hear from you. In the meantime, create an amazing day for yourself and be well.